I got my
Mm.
freedom. I'm a man. I'm an American. And I wrote Crime Inc. because the Democratic Party is a criminal institution. It is controlled by a cabal of perverts, liars, and psychopaths and anti-Christian bigots. And the best thing we can do is kick them out in 2024.
Well, my first guest today, Vince Everett Ellison, is the author of Clink, How Democrats Employ Mafia and Gangster Tactics to Gain and Hold Power. He was born on a cotton plantation in Haywood County, Tennessee. His parents at that time, sharecroppers. And through hard work and a belief in Jesus Christ, his parents pulled him and 7 siblings out of poverty. His family started the Ellison Family Gospel Singing Group, where Vince sang and played multiple instruments as a child and young adult. And he worked for 5 years as a correctional officer and then in the nonprofit arena. So, such an inspiring story. Thank you so much, Vince, for coming on the counter narrative with me. Really appreciate you being here.
Oh, it is my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Now, first, I want to say again, your story is so inspiring, and I found that it's not exclusive. There's plenty of inspiring stories of people at odds, that were able to dig themselves out and make something of themselves. But anytime you try and share stories like yourself or others, opponents say, "Oh, well, those are exceptions to the rule. It's an exception to the plight of systemic racism. It's not the norm." So, what do you say when people give that criticism or response?
I tell them that they're slave-minded, they're apostates, they're unchristian, and they're un-American, they're weak, and they're stupid. Um, I grew up on I was born on a cotton plantation. My father was a sharecropper. He brought us out of poverty. The most violent Klan faction in the United States of America was the Klan faction in Tennessee, and the Grand Wizard lived in Brownsville, and he never touched us because my father always carried a gun. Um, I was taught to aspire. I was taught that I was, and in my Christian faith, I was taught that I could not be a victim because I'm an heir of Jesus Christ. And I'm a child of God. I cannot be oppressed because I'm an heir of Jesus Christ and I'm a child of God. And Jesus can do anything. So if he's my father and I'm his heir, how can I be oppressed? I've never met a man superior to me. And I know that I am free because Jesus said he set me free. He said, I came to free you. According to John Locke, my freedom is an unalienable right. It was given me by God. It was irrevocable, non-transferable, and unsellable. It's mine. It's like my DNA. It's like my hair. It's like the color of my skin. It's mine. Even though Martin Luther King Jr. said in I Have a Dream speech that 100 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, the Negro is still not free, I disagree. That is a lie. I was born free. He said 5 times in that speech, I have a dream, that we were not free. Even at the end of it, he said, on some certain day, we'll be free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we're free at last. No, I'm already free. And this is where Black people get this whole concept that they're oppressed and that they're victimized. King also said that they asked us to pull us up by our bootstraps. How can we do that when we're bootless? Well, I'm not bootless. I got everything that I need. He also said that we're coming to Washington, D.C. to get our check, that the government owes us something. Well, there was a great Democrat that said, ask not what your country can do for you, actually you can do for your country. So I don't ask my country to give me anything. I got my
Mm.
freedom. I'm a man. I'm an American. And I wrote Crime Inc. because the Democratic Party is a criminal institution. It is controlled by a cabal of perverts, liars, and psychopaths and anti-Christian bigots. And the best thing we can do is kick them out in 2024.
Well, about your book, again, it's how Democrats employ mafia and gangster tactics to gain and hold power. To my point at the beginning of this, we've seen a lot of Republican infighting. The Democrats have been locks unity, Trump voting for Hakeem Jeffries to be speaker, yet there's been just constant infighting and a division within the Republican Party. What do you think is responsible for that?
Well, you show the Democratic Party is a mob family. You don't ever go against the Don. Everybody takes orders, walk in lockstep, do what they're told. The Republican Party are mostly a bunch of free people. They squabble, they argue, they are all looking at their own districts and what their constituents want, but not in the Democratic Party. The mob boss rules, and the Democratic Party makes their money like the mafia, just like the mafia, just like the triads, and just like MS-13. They're from a foreign entity. They're straight out of Moscow. They're not American. The Democratic Party before 1960, it was an American party. They were a cabal of stupid, ignorant racists, Klan members. Well, after the civil rights movement, all the communists in the civil rights movement jumped to the Democratic Party, and they took it over in 1972 and slowly turned the Democratic Party into this Marxist crime family. And now it's controlled by the most sophisticated, most educated criminals in the world. All of them are psychotics because they all believe in murder and killing. I mean, for instance, the mob makes their money off hits, right? Well, the Democratic Party does too. They have 1,500 hitmen in America called Planned Parenthood, abortion clinics all over the country, uh, and kill babies, make more money, and then give that money to the Democratic Party in campaign contribution. The mob controls the unions. Democratic Party is involved with the unions also. The main one is the teachers' unions. They give the teachers pay raises. Teachers give money to the unions. Unions give their campaign contributions to the Democratic Party, over $100 million. It's classic money laundering. The Democratic Party is involved with the cartels. The cartels, sex traffic, drug traffic, human traffic across the border. Cartels give their money to K Street lawyers. K Street lawyers give the campaign contributions to the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party make sure that the border stay open. They will not seal it. So this is how the Democratic Party is a crime family. They pimp out the American people to be beaten down, criminalized. They defund the police. They allow the dope to be sold in the street. They allow prostitution. They make sure the people are demoralized. That's who they are. They're a crime organization. They're an evil organization. Get Crime Inc. Go to my website to rock your world.
Now, to be fair, I was covering at the beginning of the show Republicans that you can trace taking back or taking money from mules and taking money from this whole SBF scandal situation. So, do you think that these are rhinos, Republicans in name only? They're actually more part of the Democrat Party, or do you think it's more of a uniparty problem? Or what do you think is behind that? Because it's more and more like this isn't just a Democrat problem.
Well, first of all, I'm not a Republican. I'm a conservative. It's my ideology. The Republicans spend more money than the Democrats do. They'll talk about what they're going to do, but when they get power, they don't do anything. They always increase the budget, and they always spend, 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 spend. So I'm a conservative, and I also left the Republican Party because the Republican Party doesn't go into the black community anymore. The black Republican Party and the Black Caucus they made a deal on redistricting. And they said that if the Black Caucus voted with the Republicans on their redistricting plan, Lee Atwater made this deal in 1992, that they would stay out of the majority black districts, what they've done. And it worked for the GOP because before the deal, the Democratic Party held the Congress for 40 straight years. The deal, they've only held it for 8 years. So the GOP stays in power because they make these majority black districts and leave all the black people in those districts and leave the rest of the districts very white, so the Republicans are easily winning them. So they made a deal with the black caucuses, and wherever you go into these cities, when you go into Detroit, when you go into Memphis, when you go to Chicago, they don't even run a Republican slate any longer. They left these people to die under the boot and the heel of the Democrat Party, an evil institution. They have the worst schools. They destroy the family. They bring drugs in. They bring illegals in. They bring prostitution in. They take your guns away so you can't defend yourself. And everywhere they rule, whether it be Portland, Seattle, L.A., Memphis, Houston, St. Louis, you name it, Chicago, it is a death machine. Nobody wants to live there. Everybody's trying to get out. And the Republican Party will not show up and give those people any respite. So this is why I do what I do. I don't ask permission. I don't ask the GOP's permission to do anything. I write my books. I make my documentaries. I have my website. I'm on your show. And I want to thank you for having me, because without people like you, I'd be voiceless. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I want to remind people that your website is vinceellison.com. So that is three E's there, vinceellison.com, so that you can
That's
get yourself
correct.
a copy of this very important book. But I wanted to talk about what you were just hitting upon, that the people in communities, they suffer under crime, they suffer under oppression, and yet vote for their slave masters.
Mm,
It's like, where is the divide here? You see that you're in a mess, you see that you're being held down, but it is
yes.
in these liberal cities, it is under the thumb of Democrats. How can you not see that the oppressor that you're screaming about is the very people that you're voting in and aligning with?
Well, C.S. Lewis said hell is a choice. This is classic Stockholm syndrome. when people beat you down enough and they demoralize you enough, you take on the ideology and the image of your oppressor. Um, Patty Hearst had it. Battered wife syndrome. It's not strange. It's not a condemnation. It's an explanation. And people usually have to be deprogrammed out of that. They had to do that with the Jews at the end of World War II when they came out of Nazi Germany. They had been beaten down and had been completely, demoralized. And it's difficult for people like you and I to really understand because we have this high self-esteem of who we are. We always believe that we can accomplish what we put our minds to. But you'll go down there and talk to these people, and a man is 50 years old and can't read a bus pass. He has no job skills. He's been told all his life he's a victim by the very people that he respects. I call these people an iron triangle. Most black preachers, most black politicians, and most black civil rights workers. They're conduits. And I wrote my first book about them. They're conduits between rich white liberals and the poor black people that live in the ghettos. And their job is to make sure these black people vote for the Democratic Party by hook or by crook. And they lie, they use street money, they use souls to the polls, ballot harvesting, you name it, they do it. But they are an evil organization that hooked up with the Democrat Party, and they're just the same iPod version of the old House Negro back in the day. They kept us field Negroes in control for the master. So it's a variation on the thing. They've been doing this for years. They're not going to stop it until we make them. So that's why I write my books. People that want to know the truth will find it. People like you are out there. I'm out there, and many others. So people that seek the truth, as Jesus said, if you seek the truth, you'll find it. If you don't want it, I can't make you have it. So my books are out there. You're out there. Other great people are out there, and people are finding it because right now they've said that 20% of the black community is turning to the GOP, and they're leaving this slave master Democrat Party.
Well, let's talk about that too, about this whole concept of slave master and aligning with people that hurt you. Black lives matter, Black lives do matter. And I never had a problem saying that, but I had a problem with the organization that calls themselves Marxist. And what do you know? They collect all that money and then they abused it. They bought mansions and who knows where some of that money went, but it certainly didn't go back to the Black community. And now, on top of it, they're aligning with actual terrorists across abroad, the Hamas, and so explain what's happening there and where how that alignment is happening.
Well, it's not so much that the Democratic Party is taking off of Hamas and Iran. Iran learned from the Democrat Party. See, the Democrat Party was Nazis before the Nazis were Nazis. Nazism is using politics to elevate one race over all others. The Democrat Party has been doing this for 220 years. They were the party of slavery from 1800 to 1860, part of the Confederacy from 1860 to 1865, part of Jim Crow from 1865 to 1970. Now they're the party of murder, Marxism, abortion, LGBTQ. But what they did after the Civil War was they did what Iran is doing now. And the Democrats were doing it for 100 years before Iran was doing it. They found a terrorist organization called the Ku Klux Klan. They bankrolled it and had it go and kill and intimidate black people so they could stay in power. And they did it for 100 years. Then they turned to BLM to do the same thing for them. The Democrat Party, they're the ones that give money to BLM. Everybody in America that gives money to BLM probably belongs to the Democrat Party. So it's a military wing of the Democrat Party. Iran gives money to Hamas and to Hezbollah. They didn't make 100. They didn't get 100,000 rockets by selling trinkets on the side of the street. Joe Biden and the Democrats support Iran. Donald Trump was bleeding them dry. They went from selling $6 billion worth of oil per year to $100 billion under Joe Biden. Then Iran takes this money and gives it to Hamas and Hezbollah. They buy rockets and they bombard Israel. So you have the United States of America, well, you have the Democratic Party that is allowing Iran to get billions of dollars to send to Hezbollah and Hamas. You have the Democratic Party giving hundreds of millions of dollars to BLM. The Democratic Party supports terrorism. They are a criminal organization. They beat people down, they stomp people in the ground, and they make sure that they keep their foot on their backs and on their necks. And every Jew in America should look at the Democratic Party and say, I will never ever vote for you again. Why? Because every missile, every rocket that Hamas and Hezbollah are shooting toward Israel right now was given to them because Joe Biden and the Democrats allowed Iran to sell billions of dollars worth of oil, and that oil money funded all of these rockets, all of these missiles, and all this terrorism.
Now, clearly, you're very passionate about this. Is this something that a way that you've always felt, and something that you always knew, or was there something that caused you to dig into this and discover these things?
Well, after I was working in the prison system, I saw that all these young black men were being locked up. You know, we had overcome in my family. Everybody was successful. But when I started working in prison in the 90s, this was during the Clinton Biden crime bill. I saw all these young black men being locked up and asked the black intelligentsia, I mean, why are these young men being locked up? And they said, well, evil, rich white Republicans hate black people and they're just locking them up. And me being naive, I said, really? So I resigned my post, started a nonprofit, went down into the black community, and I saw something interesting. I saw no evil, rich white Republicans anywhere. You see a unicorn or a leprechaun before you saw one down there. But then I did see all of these black Democrats making so much money out of the chaos. And I understood then that I'd been lied to, that this was a trap. So I started going backwards. And I read my Bible every day. And I remember what Jesus said when he said, this is how you'll know a false prophet. You'll know them by the fruit they bear. You will not get good fruit from a bad tree, or bad fruit from a good tree. Each tree and its fruit will be after his own. So when I looked at the black community, and it's determined that the fruit was rotten, the tree had to be rotten. What was the tree? Civil rights movement, black politicians, black preacher, black civil rights people. And I went all the way back to Martin Luther King Jr. Found out, and I proved in my book that he was a communist, he was a Marxist, he was apostate. He was a traitor to the black community. He was a traitor to America. Look at the condition of black people, and that's why should we celebrate. He lied about my Christian religion, saying that it was a religion of nonviolence. It is not. Christianity is a religion of non-aggression. There's no virtue in me walking down the street seeing a young 3-year-old girl getting raped and accosted, and I say, because I'm a Christian man, I can't do nothing. No, my job is to grab that guy, pull him off that little girl, whoop him till he stopped fighting, and then turn him into the police. Not summarily execute him. That's judgment. Hold him for the police and testify at his trial. There's no virtue in me sitting here in my house allowing men to come in and rape my wife and my daughters because I'm a Christian. No, that's a lie. He castrated black men all over America, having a stalking white America. The great Muhammad Ali said, it's a sick mind that wants to be somewhere where he's not wanted. And then in our Bibles, in the book of Corinthians, it says 11 people will not ever enter the kingdom of heaven. And number 11 was the extortionist, the one that used threats and boycotts and force to get what he wants. We are supposed to change your heart. We're supposed to talk you into it. We're supposed to let our light shine so people might see our good works and glorify the Father which is in heaven. They have failed in every one of their stated goals except for getting Marxists and communists in government. The black community is now at the bottom of every socioeconomic statistic in America. An illegal alien can come across Rio Grande tomorrow and make more money in a year than a black man who's been over here for 25 generations. That's the civil rights movement. That's the black leadership. And it is horrible. So all these black men walk around here talking about victimization and oppression and call themselves Christians, I hold them in utter contempt. They stink in my nostrils. I'm a man, a free man, born in America. And you talk about white privilege? Well, yeah, it is a privilege to be white, but it's also a privilege to be black. It's a privilege to be an American. Well, it's damn sure a privilege to be a Christian in America, and that's who I am.
I love that. One more question about your book, Crime Inc. How Democrats Employ Mafia and Gangster Tactics to Gain and Hold Power. That's the name of the book again. Uh, you talk about the tactics. Do you think that the majority of Democrats know that they're being manipulative and have these sinister, nefarious things that they're doing, or do you think that many of them are just still deceived and ignorant and don't realize that what they're doing is hurting the people they purport to care about?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think there's a lot of cognitive dissonance going on. It's like a person that's on crack cocaine. They know the crack is killing them. Alcoholic knows alcohol is killing them. A person that's addicted to tobacco knows that the tobacco is killing them, but they can't shake it. A very large person knows that the food is killing them, but they can't shake it. Most people that are in self-destructive modes know what they're doing is killing them, but they do not have the strength or the courage to break it. And that's where the Democratic Party. They find weak people and they addict them to these government programs. They give them the crumbs off of the table and tell the person, and they demoralize them and tell them this is the best you can do. And that person wants better, but they don't think they can have better. They have to stay where they are because they think if they walk off the plantation, they'll die. And it's a sad state of affairs. I see it too often. They take a person's self-worth and they grind it into the ground. You hear them say it every day. You're a victim, you're oppressed, America's racist, you can't make it. Take these crumbs we give you and be happy. And they destroy your incentive. They destroy your competitive spirit. They destroy your soul as a man. Go into these places where they rule, and you see the trash on the ground. You see the graffiti. You see the violence. All of that is a sick mind. It's not the slum is not the place. The slum is here. The slum is here. And the Democratic Party demoralizes a people. They destroy a people. They just cave in their soul. And this is the thing that makes them so dangerous. It's not that they think these people are terrible. They have convinced these people they're terrible. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris had a celebration of hip hop the other day at the White House. Yeah, hip hop music, a genre of music that calls black people the N word, calls black women the B word, the W word. Talk about killing police, selling dope, smoking dope, violence, all this kind of stuff. They elevated it. They say this is what we like. This is what all black people should aspire to do and be. They celebrated George Floyd, a guy that was a poor, uneducated, unemployed, dope addict, violent, been to jail. Why? That's that prototypical black man. They want to elevate George Floyd and say, this is what we want you to be. We want you to be George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown. That's who they want the black community to be, because when we are that, we vote for them. At every school in Baltimore, they spend $21,000 a child. Not one school is proficient in math, sciences, or reading. Nevertheless, they send that money every day. Why? Because they're making many George Floyds. They're making many hip hop artists. And these ignorant people vote for the Democratic Party. And they're not going to change that unless we make them.
Well, I love your inspiring story and I love your passion and that you're a brother in Christ and that you've written this book to arm people with knowledge so that they can get informed and share others. Again, the book is called Crime Inc. How Democrats Employ Mafia and Gangster Tactics to Gain and Hold Power. You can visit Vince's website, vinceellison.com. That's three E's there, vinceellison.com, and learn more, watch the documentary, and read the book. Any final words, Vince?
Well, in our Bible, Cain was angry because God had rejected his offering and accepted his brother's offerings, Abel. And God looked at Cain and gave him the insight into how the human mind works. He told Cain, he said, Cain, why are you angry? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if not, sin waits at the door to master you, but you must master it. If you do well, you'll be accepted here in America. You'll be accepted by mankind. Muhammad Ali, Jackie Robinson, Joe Louis, you name them, they've done well. The left has not done well. They want you to march, yell, cry, spit, sweat, begging, asking, stalking. No, do well. Do your job well. Bricklayer, HVAC man, transmission man, carpenter. Do it well, and you'll be respected by mankind. You'll be respected by God, and you will never, ever be hungry.
So good. Thank you so much, Vince, for coming on the show. Really appreciate everything you had to offer us today.
Thank you for having me.